the Carrollton-Farmers Branch ISD Board of Trustees to order at 6 p.m. on November 7th, 2019. The purpose of this pre-meeting briefing is to conduct a briefing session with administrative staff regarding the posted agenda for the regular board meeting scheduled for 7 p.m. on November 7th, 2019. For the record, the board members present are John Matthews, Sally Derrick, Nancy Klein, Randy Shackman, Guillermo Ramos, and Candace Valenzuela. Item number 2, non-action items for discussion and consideration. Report on the School First Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas, 2018-19 rating based upon school year 2017-18 data, including financial management report. Scott Roderick.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Good evening. We're here to present the results of the 2018-19 School First ratings. These are the ratings that are based on data from the 17-18 school year. The primary goal of the School First reporting system is to identify school districts that achieve quality performance in management of school districts' financial resources. There are two reporting requirements of the School First. A school district must prepare and distribute an annual financial report, and the district must also hold a public hearing to provide opportunity for comment on the report. The Texas Education Agency plans to make major changes to the School First rating system with the 2021 report for the 1920 data. We will have one more first report before the changes take effect. We will keep you updated on the expected changes and how they will look. Our report tonight, the 1819 report, has three types of indicators: the critical, solvency, and financial competence. The financial rating will either be an A superior, B above standard, meet standard, C meet standards, or F substandard. Last year's report contained a total of 15 indicators. Either a rating of A, B, C, or F were given. To achieve the highest rating, a district must answer yes to all 5 critical indicators, as well as to accumulate between 90 and 100 points on the remaining 10 indicators. For the current year's School First rating system, there will be no changes to the 15 indicators or indicators asked or the point totals to achieve the highest grade of an A. For the 1819 School First report, Carrollton-Farmers Branch received a rating of A for superior. The district answered yes to all the critical indicators and had a total accumulation of 100 points for indicators 6 through 15. Last year's 2017-18 report, the district received an A for superior and answered yes to all the critical indicators and had a point total of 100 for the remaining indicators. For the current ratings of the 1,020 school districts in the state of Texas, 902 districts received an A, 72 received a B, 35 received a C, and 11 received an F. This is kind of small, but these are the first 3 indicators. The first column represents the descriptions for the current 1819 report, and the second column represents the descriptions for the indicator from last year's report. And the last 2 columns to the far right represents the point total received for each question. The district passed all 3 indicators listed here. These are the 2 remaining critical indicators as mentioned previously. These indicators for the current report are the same as last year. Number 5 was, it asked, was the total unrestricted and net asset balance in the governmental activities column and the statement of net assets greater than 0. For the current year rating, TEA has decided not to score this one. This is likely due to the GASB 75 and 68 relating to the liability accrual of the post-retirement benefits. These large accruals has caused many districts to report their net assets as a negative, and so the district passed all these critical indicators presented. These are the solvency indicators. There are 7 indicators in this section. We won't go over each one, but to give you an example, number 6 asked, was the number of days of cash on hand in current investments in the general fund for the school district sufficient to cover operating expenditures? The result of this indicator is that the district could go 154 days to cover operating expenditures, and we received a 10, the most available for this question. The final group of indicators is the financial competence section. An example is number 13. It states, did the comparison of PEMS data to like information in the district's annual financial report result in a total variance of less than 3% of all expenditures? This is just making sure that what you have in your audited financial statements are what you submit through PEMS data. And the district's total variance was less than 3%, so the district received the highest point total for this question. School First also requires other disclosures, including a copy of the superintendent's current employment contract. This is included in the district's management report. A schedule of total reimbursements received by superintendent and each board member during the 17-18 fiscal year. This is included in the district management report as well. A schedule of outside compensations and/or fees received by superintendent in exchange for professional and/or consulting or personal services. The superintendent did not receive such compensation. Also, a schedule of the total dollar amount of gifts that were received by superintendent or board members that had an economic value of $250 or more. There were none. And a summary schedule of the dollar amount by board members for the aggregate amount of business transactions with the school district. And then there were no such transactions reported. This slide is just a summary of the reimbursement received by the superintendent and board members during the 17-18 fiscal year. And the district will meet all the School First reporting requirements upon the conclusion of the public hearing. The 18-19 School First management report is also available upon request. This concludes our 18-19 School First report. Thank you very much this evening.
So, board members, we've heard the presentation. Is there any discussion? Mr. Shackman?
Continued kudos to you, Mr. Roderick, all your team. Ms. Tillman, how many years in a row is this that we've received superior ratings?
I believe since its inception.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever missed it. And the value of that for us to be able to say as a board to our community, we're taking good care of finances is a credit to you all. Thank you for your work.
I appreciate it. The next change that's coming will be pretty drastic, but we feel confident that we will still be able to achieve that rating.
So, having heard the discussion, our next item is item 2B, public hearing on the School First Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas, 2018-19 rating based upon school year 2017-18 data, including financial management report. Ladies and gentlemen, I call this public hearing about the 2018-19 School First rating to order at 6:08 p.m. The board will now hear comments or entertain questions from the audience. Please indicate your intent to speak by raising your hand. If there are no speakers, this public hearing is closed, about School First is closed at, I don't know, now it's 6:09 p.m. There we go. Thank you. Board members, this takes us to item number 3. Do you have any questions regarding the consent agenda items? Mr. Ramos?
One of the items that I'm going to recuse myself, I believe.
Fix your mic.
Oh, sorry about that. It's one of the items that I'm going to recuse myself on. I believe it's going to be item 4. Oh, I think is the one. I'll double check here in a moment and I'll let you know.
Okay, so you'll just pull that and someone else will make a motion. Audit committee members, would you like to talk any about the audit committee items and your action or inaction on the consent agenda tonight?
We did have an audit committee meeting tonight. There will be no action items. We're not recommending that, well, I guess what's on the agenda we're leaving as is. We're not pulling anything for individual discussion. There was nothing that came up that we felt needed to be pulled.
So it will just remain on the consent
Remain on the
agenda.
consent. Mhm.
Awesome. Ms. Valenzuela?
I just had one question on item, so it's on the consent agenda U for the voting system equipment. Now that we'll be going through 2 different counties, is there a big price differential?
Yes, ma'am, there is. Normally in May, we would be able to contract out, but with Dallas County, when the recent change to the countywide vote centers for elections, they'll no longer be able to administer our May Denton County voters portion of our board elections, so we will have to contract with both entities, which will significantly increase the cost. It varies from year to year on Dallas, depending on who's participating in the joint election, but we'll definitely have an increase to pay Denton as well. Part of the intent behind Dallas votes is that now voters can go to any location as they could during early voting. Now they can do that on election day, which resulted in, that's why they went through the process of purchasing new equipment. That's what this agenda item is about, is actually approving the new election equipment for Dallas. And then we also added Denton onto that. They had not requested us to do that, but since we were doing Dallas, we did both of those as a requirement so that we can contract with both of them in May for the May election. We also suspect after they have a couple of cycles using the countywide vote centers, we'll start seeing changes in places where you can vote because they're going to track the data to make sure we have effective locations throughout Dallas County to vote.
Mr. Shackman?
A follow-up to that, and perhaps it's in the works, how is the joint record keeping and all of that going to take place? It was jointly kept at Dallas County, and it may be that you're going to present that to us coming up, but it'd be interesting for us to know in advance how's all this going to finally work.
It will be just like when we had our bond election or our TRE, those were in November, so we had to contract with each entity separate, and it's completely separate. They send us the results, we track, everything is done it's almost like 2 separate elections, and then we're required to merge the data ourselves and report that back. They don't do any of that piece of it, but they each maintain 2 separate. There will be no sharing of any data.
Thank you. So, are there any other questions or discussion? So we're at the end of 3. So Dr. Chapman, on number 4, are there any reports by administration?
No, we're gonna have the conversation on tips, which is gonna be under action item B. We'll just do that during the regular meeting, so people can know how those plans were developed and how we move that forward.
Okay.
So we'll hold off, and then Malcolm will do a construction project update for us, and they're non-action, so those were the 2 big ones. Let's do that during regular meeting.
So with this, we're now at item number 5, adjournment. We've reached the end of our agenda for this pre-meeting briefing, and we are adjourned at 6:14 p.m. We needed a little noise so we could then call this meeting to order. I call this regular meeting of the Carrollton-Farmers Branch ISD Board of Trustees to order at 7 p.m. on November 7th, 2019. Board members, district staff members, and members of the audience, you are free to join me in standing as Pastor Ken Ritchie of Faith United Presbyterian Church provides a message, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Sally Derrick and the Pledge of the Texas Flag led by John Matthews.
Let us pray. O living God, great King, King above all gods, rulers, nations, peoples, languages, and cultures, you who breathes life into all creation, bringing from chaos, order, and purpose, you who redeems all creation in the grace of Christ, bringing from despair hope, not for what was, but what will be, and who raises us up from death to life. You who sustains all creation by your Holy Spirit, breathing from fear, faith, for it is your perfect love that casts out all fear. And so we seek your blessing this night in this gathering. Blow through this room with the courage to do justice, to love kindness, to walk humbly with you. Blow through this room with the wisdom to pursue truth and peace, wholeness and inclusion. Blow through this room with the compassion to ensure that none are forgotten, ignored, or pushed aside. And oh God, who gives? We need wisdom in these days of madness and misdirection, of panic and confusion, fear and anxiety. And so fill these board members and administrators with the wisdom that takes a stand on the heights, beside the way and at the crossroads, the wisdom that cries out for justice to roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. And O God, who calls forth, we give thanks for those who humbly commit themselves to the tasks of molding and shaping our children in wisdom through teaching, serving, caring, compassion, and integrity, opening them to vistas of new hope, direction, purpose, fulfillment, and growth. We pray your blessing upon teachers and aides and the support staff. Embrace them with your grace and love. Fill them with all the gifts of the Spirit needed to be faithful, such that those gifts would flow around them and through them. And O God, who eagerly welcomes the little ones, we lift up in prayer all students, parents, guardians, and families of all kinds and manifestations, poor and wealthy, weak and powerful, visible and invisible, blended and single parent, traditional and non-traditional. Pour out your blessings and grace and love. And we give thanks for those that will be acknowledged with accomplishments this night, and the many accomplishments that are only known to teachers, students, and families. And where there is brokenness, make whole. And where there is division, grant reconciliation. And where there is pain, enable forgiveness. And where there is desperation, give hope. And where there is hurt, bring healing. May all of us live aligned to your love and grace, revealed in Jesus to neighbor and stranger, to the glory of your name. Amen.
For which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Well, winter is definitely here, and welcome to our November board meeting. As a district, we dedicate all our efforts and resources to our goal of high achievement for each student. The board uses this goal to guide all deliberations, decisions, and actions. You will get to see all deliberations, decisions, and actions of the board in open session, with the exception of some items which may be discussed in a closed session as stipulated in the Texas Government Code Section 551, commonly known as the Open Meetings Law. These items typically deal with personnel matters, consultation with our attorney, and real estate. For the record, the board members present are John Matthews, Sally Derrick, Nancy Klein, Randy Shackman, Guillermo Ramos, and Candace Valenzuela. We constitute a quorum and may conduct business on behalf of the district. Ladies and gentlemen, before moving on to the next agenda item, I'd like to remind you that the board encourages comments from citizens of the district and from district employees. Anyone wishing to speak, either as an individual or as a representative of a group, may do so under agenda item number 3, audience for guests. Please submit your request to do so on one of the forms provided on the table just outside the north entrance of the boardroom. You may place the completed form in the box provided on that same table, or present your completed form to Administrative Assistant Ms. Kim Castanon. She's over here on your right. When the board addresses agenda item number 3, audience for guests, you'll be invited to the podium beside her to speak to the board. So, Dr. Chapman, we're now on agenda item number 2, special presentations and recognitions.
Yes, first of all, we're going to recognize a student today, and Ms. Parnell is going to assist in that process, followed by our teachers of the 9 weeks and our employees of the 9 weeks. Exciting time to honor some of our great administrators and a student that has far exceeded accomplishments while she's been in CFB ISD. So this time, let's start recognizing our individuals.
Good evening, Dr. Chapman, President Klein, and trustees. And as Dr. Chapman mentioned, we are so honored tonight to announce one of our students for her accomplishment, and that is Brianna Whittington. She's an early college high school senior. The principal at that campus is Mr. Timothy Isley. Congratulations to Brianna for her selection as a Class of 2020 National Hispanic Recognition Program Scholar. To earn this distinction, Brianna earned a PSAT score at or above 1290 in the fall of 2018 and had a 3.5 GPA or higher during the middle of her junior year. Congratulations to Brianna. And as a side note, Brianna has a lot of family here, and we know that this is very important. We like to ask them to stand as well. Now with our Teacher of the 9 Weeks, we would like to begin with our first campus, and that is Blaylock Middle School. The principal is Keith Davis. The teacher is Marietta Wynn. She's an algebra teacher. She has 14 years in the district and 14 years in teaching. And this is what was said about her. She goes above and beyond to help her students and coworkers, and the scores she is able to achieve is a reflection of her hard work and dedication. She's patient, kind, helpful, and loves her job and wants to do best for students. Congratulations. Bush Middle School. Principal Warnock. The teacher is Amanda Gallant. She's a 7th and 8th grade math teacher. This is her 7th year in the district and 7th year in teaching, and this was said about her. She works tirelessly to meet the needs of each and every student through building positive relationships, celebrating victories, and encouraging those that are struggling. Congratulations. Field Middle School, Principal Chad Hunter, and the teacher is Miss Kelly Gossett. She's an applied academics 6th through 8th grade teacher, 5 years in the district and 5 years in teaching. Miss Gossett is humble, patient, kind, and unbelievably selfless. She truly cares for her student scholars like they are her own children and meets their needs every single day with love and compassion. Congratulations. Long Middle School, Principal Charday Dockery. The teacher is Frances Camacha. She's a dual language social studies teacher with 2 years in the district and 2 years in teaching. She's always warm, enthusiastic, and caring. She always walks around with a smile on her face despite what she may be going through. Nothing can stop her from loving her students and colleagues. Congratulations. Perry Middle School, Principal Adam Toy. The teacher is Laura Brewer. She's an art teacher, 8 years in the district and 15 years in teaching. This was said about her. She is dedicated to teaching art in a way that no matter what a student's given artistic ability is, she will encourage them to push through and learn new things, all the while making our school more beautiful. Congratulations. Polk Middle School, Principal Kelly O'Sullivan. The teacher is Harry Bailey. 7th and 8th grade tech apps, robotics, and journalism teacher, 3 years in the district and 3 years in teaching. This was said about Mr. Bailey. He always rises to the occasion with a smile, whether it's in tech app classes, robotic classes, taking STEM teams to nationals, or showing journalism the best angle for a photo. You can always count on him and his passion for our school. Congratulations. Creekview High School, Principal Joe LaPuma. The teacher is Angie Strauss. She's a SPED applied academics teacher, 13 years in the district, 3 years in teaching. While working with some of our autism and Down syndrome students, Ms. Strauss works tirelessly to provide an environment where students can grow and be prepared for functional skills in life after high school. Congratulations. Early College High School, Principal Timothy Isley. The teacher is Nabil Kanta. Teaches biology, French 1, and anatomy, and also physiology. 3rd year in the district, 7 years in teaching. When it comes to serving others, and especially the students, he is always a yes. His students' test results are super high, while his passion for teaching all of his classes and willingness to be a multiple club sponsor is an inspiration to all of us. Congratulations. Newman Smith High School, Principal Stephanie Jimenez. The teacher is Kathy Holge. She's an International Business Academy teacher, 17 years in the district and 17 years in teaching. Mrs. Holge is a leader amongst her peers as well as a resource, friend, and colleague to both new and experienced teachers. Kathy and the International Business Academy are a great source of pride for our campus. Congratulations. Turner High School, Principal Brooke Hall. The teacher is Michelle Wilson. English 1 teacher, 12 years in the district and 12 years in teaching. This was said about Ms. Wilson. She gives freely of her time and energy to sponsor the Turner chapter of the National Honor Society and to coach teachers as instructional facilitators. She's an amazing educator, and we are so blessed to have her in the Turner family. Congratulations. Mary Grimes Education Center. The principal is Melissa Wesley. The teacher is Teresa Parada. She's in the Meeting on Ed program. 4 years in the district, 15 years in teaching. She is the driving force behind our 18 to 22-year-old transition program, Meeting on Ed. The community liaison program provides work sites for our students, and she is a success behind it. Congratulations. Sheffield Elementary, Principal Amy Miller. Teacher is Dina White. She's a 2nd grade language arts teacher. This is her 6th year in the district and 15th year in teaching. Mrs. White spends every moment teaching and finding outside resources for the community to teach and help the children. She has a 100% goal of serving her students and helping them improve their skills. Congratulations. McCaney Elementary School, Matt Hood is the principal. The teacher is Crystal Smith, and she is a music teacher. She has 2 years in teaching and 2 years in the district. Krista is the most calm, patient, and loving music teacher. She always finds ways to make her music passion come alive and to engage and support all learners. Congratulations, Krista. Let's give all of our teachers another round of applause. Next, we have our employees of the 9 weeks that we'd like to recognize. We're going to start with our facilities department, and the honoree is Miss Misty Graham, and she is she is an administrative assistant in the department. The supervisor is Jack Good. She has 15 years in the district, and this is what was said about her. She is extremely effective in her execution of her duties, resulting in good quality work produced. She is very organized and very detailed. She is indeed an asset to the department and to the CFB team, and she definitely meets the expectation that together we can do more. Congratulations. Next, we have our professional employee of the 9 weeks. And that is Miss Karen Spalding, or the supervisor is Miss Karen Spalding, and the employee is Whitney Hartman. And Ms. Hartman is an elementary math instructional coach, and this was said about her. She has a deep knowledge of math content, along with her friendly demeanor and positive attitude, make for a winning combination as an instructional coach. She makes us all want to like math more. And she has been in the district 6 years. Congratulations. Next, we have our paraprofessional employee of the 9 weeks. The supervisor is Ms. Rebecca McDowell, and the employee is Ms. Janice Caperton. Jana is the assistant payroll director. She's been in the district 18 years, and this was said about her. She is responsible for making sure our 2,000-plus exempt employees, and such as teachers, directors, and the superintendent, are paid correctly each month. We're not through. We still have more to say about you. Her dedication and meticulous attention to detail makes her an outstanding payroll employee. We are so proud of her. She's retiring in December, so we want to give her an extra round of applause. And that concludes our recognitions. Thank you.
We want to move on to CFB Ways District announcements. Each month, we display some artwork, and so in front of you tonight is some artwork from Ranch View High School. So it's just some information that we always want to shine a light on the wonderful things our students are doing. And as you can see here, such talent that we have in our district. Next on the list, we have Mario Della Rosa. He's here to present a few awards.
Thank you, Dr. Chapman. Good evening, President Klein, Dr. Chapman, members of the board. At this time, I'd like to call Sergeant Nault from the Carrollton Police Department to the front. In our previous board and safety updates, we have recognized the great things that we are doing as a district to ensure the safety and security of our students and staff, but it is likewise important to recognize the people who make these changes possible. On behalf of the CFB Safety and Security Department, I would like to thank Sergeant Nault. He has demonstrated a high degree of commitment to our schools and our community. He has trained over 3,400 CFB staff members to include teachers, administrators, facility personnel, kitchen personnel, and bus drivers. His training was extremely engaging and encouraged thought-provoking discussions for many days afterwards. Today, we have a sense of urgency to keep our students safe. Sergeant Nault has a team of school resource officers who are at the call of duty respond to our school needs to ensure the safety of all. We'd like to thank the City of Carrollton, the Carrollton Police Department, and especially you, Sergeant Nault, for your selfless dedication. On behalf of Carrollton-Farmers Branch ISD, thank you. All right, continuing on as well, I'd like to recognize if Mark Baker, Brian Zhang, and Mr. Assis Sharif, if you could come to the front, please. Yeah. Continuing with safety and security, these 3 CFB family members have played a key role in ensuring that 100% of our schools have secure entrances to include video intercoms, proper signage, and access control systems that help and maintain the safety of our campuses. All these changes would have not been possible without their countless hours to ensure these safety processes were put in place from the first day of school. So thank you very much, gentlemen, and we appreciate your dedication.
CFB.
Next, we'll have Joe Gillen to present the counseling services. Sorry.
Good evening, Dr. Chapman, Ms. Klein, and esteemed board. I am more than excited to share the great news about the Counseling Connections Center. Last spring, the vision of the Counseling Center was presented to Dr. Chapman. Without hesitation, his response was, "This is absolutely critical in meeting the needs of the whole child." His support and vision for this district in serving the whole child has renewed passion and commitment for staff in this district. To give you a window into our services, the staff will be comprised of a center supervisor who will review cases and consult with our counselors. Counseling staff will be licensed professional counselors and certified school counselors, 3 of which are bilingual. We also have a center liaison who happens to be a graduate of Early College High School and the University of North Texas. She will be responsible for intake and scheduling of students and families referred by our school counselors. The enthusiasm for those working in our center is over the top as we prepare to provide these services. Services will include individual and family counseling and toy therapy, a specialized approach for young children. We will add parent classes and groups beginning spring 2020. We believe the parent classes will benefit many of our families to help with positive child-raising strategies. As you know, many of our children do not come with a manual. Appointments are available Tuesday and Thursday evenings at either 5, 6, or 7 p.m. We will have additional evening appointments beginning spring 2020. We are an exceptional school district. The connections that we make with our students and the relationships we build help navigate the canoe, as you see in the illustration above by Dr. Tina Bryson, author of The Whole Brain Child. Our goal is to help the child travel the river without bumping into the banks of chaos and rigidity. What we know is that our families truly struggle to find mental health services and counseling. It is costly and difficult to access. CFB will be providing counseling at no cost to families in the comfort of our own ESDC Building A with freshly updated counseling rooms and child-friendly decor. Students' emotional needs must be met before they can learn deeply. When educating the minds of our youth, we must not forget to educate their hearts. There is no separation of mind and emotions. Emotions, thinking, and learning are all linked. Not a day goes by without the media announcing the mental health crisis in our country. Anxiety and depression are prevalent. More and more students are dealing with trauma. 16% of high school students seriously consider suicide. Rates have increased 30% since the year 2000. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for Americans between ages 10 and 34. So here is the why. We care about our students. We have heart in this district. Counseling Connection Center, meeting the needs of the whole child in CFB, be the exception, together we can. Thank you.
So next is our update from the PTA.
Good evening. My name is Beth Seinert, and I serve as the 4th Vice President of Fundraising for our CFB Council. And I'm excited to give you an update on what's going on with our council PTA these last few weeks. I'm pleased to report that 34 of our 36 PTAs are in active and good standing status with the Texas PTA. That's something that takes a lot of work and effort, so a big shout out goes to all of those PTAs for putting in the work to achieve that status. Our current membership count is 5,587 members, which means we're about 90% to our membership goal this year of just over 6,231 members. Our local PTAs continue to promote membership to our families and our community. Anyone can join PTA. All you have to do is go to joinpta.org and select the PTA that you want to support. So we encourage everyone in the community to support at least one PTA, if not more. The National PTA Art Contest Reflections is well underway. Our theme this year is Look Within. We are excited to have schools that are participating and sending in their award-winning entries to our council PTA, and we will be judging those entries in early December. Please mark your calendars because we are going to celebrate our CFB artists and award winners from the district on January the 14th at 7 p.m. in the Newman Smith Auditorium. If you should come a little early, you will be treated to a pre-ceremony reception starting at 6:30. So we look forward to having everyone there to celebrate our artists in the district. Together with the CFB Parent Education, our council PTA is hosting a parent education event next week entitled The Truth About Vaping. This presentation will be held on Thursday, November the 14th at DeWitt Perry Middle School beginning at 6:30 p.m. There will be an English-speaking session that will take place in the auditorium and a Spanish-speaking session that will take place in the library. So we encourage everyone to join us for the information that will be presented there so that we can help safeguard our students. It's a very important topic. As we near Thanksgiving, we would like to express our thanks and gratitude for our principals, local PTA leaders, as well as our PTA volunteers that keep things moving at our campuses to promote increased family engagement. We are so very thankful for the PTA community within the CFB ISD. We are thankful to our CFB PTA members for their support of our organization, and we are very thankful to the district for their continued support and partnership with PTA. We are lucky to have such engagement from the district at all levels, and we know that that support allows us to focus on our combined goal of high achievement for each student. Thank you.
So thank you to the PTA people that are here tonight. We really appreciate all that you do to help support our schools and our joint partnership. Thank you to Sergeant, I think, Nault. That is amazing what you have done to help educate our staff and professionals in our district about what we need to know and be prepared for. Thank you to all the employees that we've recognized. I like the woman that tried to run off, the one that writes all the paychecks, but that's a noble thing. Now she's trying to retire. So the key y'all need to worry about is, does she have a replacement? But but thank you to the teachers in the classrooms. Thank you. Thank you. We are blessed to have y'all. And thank you to the principals that help us find and recognize those that are so deserving. And Dr. Chapman for helping us find ways to do it in a thoughtful manner. So with that, we're going to take a brief recess. It is now 7:31, and we'll recess till 7:44. This meeting of the Carrollton-Farmers franchise, the Board of Trustees is called back to order. The next item on the agenda is number 3, audience for guests. I have 2 tonight. Are there any more, Ms. Castanon? Before we begin, I will remind our audience members of the board's procedures for handling audience for guests. Anyone interested in speaking during audience for guests must sign in and list the topic they want to discuss. Each speaker will be allowed to speak once during the audience for guests. Each speaker will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to address the board, and the audience for guests portion of the meeting will be no more than 30 minutes total as dictated by board policy BED local. If during that time the board is not able to hear from everyone who signed up, those who did not have an opportunity to speak will be invited to sign up to speak during audience for guests at the board's next regularly scheduled meeting. Because the board wants to hear from as many of you as possible while also keeping the meeting running efficiently, Groups of more than 5 people who want to present a particular viewpoint on a topic should appoint one person to speak on behalf of their group. Again, that speaker's presentation will be limited to 3 minutes. If you speak during audience for guests, either individually or on behalf of a group, please remember the board cannot deliberate on any subject that is not included on the agenda for this meeting. Last, we ask that you not discuss students who are not your own child. Timekeeper, Ms. Vice President Guillermo Ramos, please start the 30 minutes, and please also time each speaker for 3 minutes. Speakers, the timekeeper will let you know when you have 1 minute left. So our first one is Martin Sanchez. Please state your name and your address.
Hi, good evening. My name is Martin Sanchez. My address is 8312 Bentry Springs in Plano. I'm a teacher here at CFB ISD, and I wanted to share a couple of things with you guys. All right. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to say how humbled I am to stand before you guys. I wanted to discuss a couple of things, more specifically, a proposal to include LGBT protections for our students in the CFB ISD. I've been a teacher for 12 years, 5 of those years at Ranchview, and 2 of those years as the Gay Straight Alliance sponsor at Ranchview, which we call the Equality Club. At Ranchview, each meeting we establish a brave space for students to be open about their experience. And I'm always amazed at the adversity they face at home and at school, yet I shouldn't be surprised. When I was their age, my mother sent me to a priest, a therapist, and a school counselor when she discovered that I was LGBT. Last week, our guest speaker told the Equality Club that Texas has no protections for LGBT people. So a student asked if I am facing discrimination at work because I am LGBT. Is there anything I can do? And she said, no, Texas doesn't have these protections. LGBT is not one of the protected classes. And she did give them a little ray of sunshine or hope, saying that if you are part of a group or an organization like Starbucks or Targets or whatever that does have a progressive standpoint when it comes to these protections, then you'll be okay. But even now, I could probably be fired because of my status. So like all students, LGBT students are bright, sometimes stubborn, and spend a lot of time discovering their identity. Like all my students, they have untapped potential and are entitled to my very best as a teacher. A child who identifies as LGBT will be faced with 2 potential outcomes. One that rejects them and causes trauma, or as a teacher, we know this as a ACE, an adverse childhood event. Or they can be offered empathy, compassion, and support. As a teacher, I'm not asking for special privileges for these students, only a policy that will protect them against unnecessary discrimination, hate, and toxicity. This is not a political statement. This is not an attempt to teach about LGBT in my classes in these issues. This is just making our schools a safe environment for more students as we talk about achievement for each student. And the prayer at the beginning of the meeting, there are students who are weak, there are students who are powerful, traditional and non-traditional. So all I'm asking is that we do what we can to advocate for these students as well. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Leslie McMurray.
Thank you so much for your time tonight. My name is Leslie McMurray. My address is 588 Parkway Boulevard in Capel. I'm the Transgender Education and Advocacy Coordinator for Resource Center in Dallas. In that role, I often find myself fighting for those who aren't able to fight for themselves. 3 years ago, I went to my 40th high school reunion, so it's been a long time since I walked the halls of my middle school, where the bullying was at its worst. Some of those memories are still fresh in my mind as they were back then. Being different exacts a toll. I wish there had been protections back then when I was in school, but there weren't, not really. But when adults stand up and respond to bullying behavior, they send a message that is not acceptable. When school boards enumerate these protections into policy, they send a message to those students that you are safe here, you're welcome here. I recently had the privilege of mentoring a group of girls, middle school to high school age. Now, these girls are brilliant, high-performing students, and when asked their top concerns, their answers kind of shocked me, because the number one answer was access to mental health care. And the number two answer was classroom safety. Last December 21st, just in time for Christmas, the Trump administration rescinded the guidance from the Obama administration that offered protections to school children based on sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression under Title IX interpretation of sex. The language in your FFH is precarious at best. With gender-based harassment being prohibited, does that cover non-binary kids, trans kids, gay or lesbian students? Does gender-based harassment include gender identity, gender expression? Pending a Supreme Court decision that may affect the interpretation of Title IX, having a clear enumerated policy would ease the uncertainty. After all, equality isn't pie. Protecting trans kids doesn't unprotect the cheer squad or the chess club. Best of all, offering these enumerated protections doesn't cost a thing. These protections are desperately needed as LGBTQ students are among the most bullied and marginalized of all. The most recent GLSEN School Climate Survey that you have in your hands shows that for the first time in a decade, victimization of LGBTQ youth is not decreasing at rates previously seen. In fact, it has gotten worse for transgender and gender nonconforming kids. So is there one of you that's willing to stand up for these kids? We welcome a productive meeting to discuss these protections as part of the Carrollton-Farmers Branch ISD policy. We've watched as charter schools have whittled away at public school enrollment, costing districts money with every student that leaves. Charter schools like Uplift Education offer these protections, by the way. So I have the one sheet that you have that shows how badly these protections are needed in Texas, with over 80% of LGBT students having been harassed with homophobic or anti-transgender remarks. This needs to be addressed because it won't fix itself. Your former superintendent has made clear that changes to district policy originates with a board member. I'm hoping at least one of you is willing to talk about inclusive policies where all students feel safe. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. We'll now proceed to item number, well, any more audience for guests? Kim? We're good? Okay. We'll now proceed with item number 4, consent agenda. The consent agenda is a mechanism that the board uses to approve a number of routine items together with a single vote. In compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the public notice for this meeting includes the list of all consent agenda items, and the board has been provided ample information about these items in advance. Prior to any action taken on the consent agenda, board members may request withdrawal of individual items for clarification or discussion. Board members, are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda at this time? Mr. Ramos.
Yes, I'd like to remove consent agenda 4J.
So we have item 4J being removed. So that's the one we have removed, so we need a motion on the rest. Mr. Shackman?
Ms. Klein, I would move that we approve the consent agenda as presented with the exception of the item 4J, which has been removed.
So we have a motion by Mr. Shackman. We have a second by Ms. Valenzuela. All those in favor? So that is 6 in favor and 1 absent. With that, we'll move on to item number 5, non-action items for discussion and consideration. 5A is construction update by Malcolm Mulroney.
Good evening, members of the board, President Klein, Dr. Chapman. Thank you for this opportunity to give you a quick construction update. Even as we go into the school year, we have been hard at work with a number of our construction projects. Let's try that again. There we go. First one is Newman Smith. Give you an update there. We haven't had a lot of visible progress since there's a lot of been behind the scenes. A big portion of this project are the two banners on either side of the front entry. We originally was spec'd a metal mesh product. When we got into the review of the graphics, we were not happy with it, so we've kicked that back a number of times. We're now working with the company to look at a more graphic that would be similar to what you've seen at the stadium. And you may have seen at Rosemead and some of our other schools, a little bit bolder. I think we'll dress up the entry very nicely. We'll be bringing forward some samples to the administration to review. Construction of that will be happening closer in the spring now as we've changed products. Next one is over at McLaughlin Strickland. Our 8-classroom, 2 makerspace addition there is going very well. We're in the dry, which is a big step given the weather that we're having. This has been an interesting challenge since we're meeting the storm shelter requirements. We've built 4 classrooms into storm shelter and meet all those requirements that are now, I believe the concrete walls there are about 14 inches thick. That meets all the structural load and of course all the HVAC and other requirements that have to go along with it. Anyway, see if this will work.
Is it a
Yep.
video?
It is.
Oh.
Good afternoon and welcome to another CFB construction update.
Let's try that again. Will that change? Well, that was the, at cfbbond.edu is our bond update page where we've been posting our YouTube videos. That also goes out through Parent Square. This was the update at McLaughlin Strickland that we recorded last week. We've been trying to do those weekly or bi-weekly given how the construction schedule holds and the weather allows. Our latest one was recorded over at the multipurpose building, which will be available later this week. Looking at some of the interior finishes, you can see it's getting quite exciting. The whiteboards are in, the cabinetry is starting to go in. What's really exciting is you'll see that those whiteboards are installed so they start down nice and low. That's because they're for kids. These aren't just teaching walls where kids sit in front of them. These are walls where kids engage with each other and collaborate. Quick before and after, because those are always fun. So you can sort of see where from August where we were to November where we're going to. Over at Landry, this was the 6th classroom edition that we opened for the start of school, and you know that there's been a phase 2 construction project going on. The campus has been fantastic working with us. They've got a long walk around back to their library, and there's 2 classrooms back there. They've done an awesome job staying as part of working with us and dealing with our construction noise and dust. We are tracking for an opening in March 2020 for that project. Here you can see the exciting part that happened this month is that they cut open that roof. In the center of those 6 to 7 classrooms, there'll be a collaboration space. The big challenge with having a collaboration space right in the middle of a campus like that is what do you do for natural light? We know how important that is. So we actually raised the roof and they cut open that hole this week. So here you can see the rendering on the left-hand side and of course the structural piece on the right. Over at the multipurpose building, things are really starting to take shape as the building goes in the dry. These are the picture you see here is the ballroom space. Last time you saw the steel going in, now you can start to see the walls getting furred out. This space here will house about seating capacity for about 500, but can be divided into 3 individual spaces. So we can do a lot of training in these spaces, or large events like we know retirement dinners or Teacher of the Year recognition, those types of things. Picture on the left, you can see from August, we didn't get to have any of the steel up. Belfort Betty's done an outstanding job getting us in the dry with the roof completely complete and a lot of the exterior glass finished. This is the main hallway outside of the ballroom, starting to take shape. Another part of this building, of course, is serving as our NOC, the Network Operations Center, all new server, fiber, and headquarters for our technology folks. This is one of their bullpens, which will house our tech support folks. You can see this is really starting to look ready to occupy. We're hoping to have them in the early part of next year, but really the building won't be open as such until March. But of course, we know that that's a long rollover as the tech guys start to roll over the servers, so that's more like a 6-month process starting from March. Now, looking ahead to our 2018 bond projects. Can't believe it's been almost a year. We have been turning every stone, beating every bush, shaking out every bit of the four campuses that we're starting at with Turner High School, Field Middle School, the New Sheffield, and McCorder. Here you can see an overall schedule designed through till the summer. We'll start construction on all four projects in the summer. Sheffield's going to be a little bit later, like I mentioned. It's going to be more of a midsummer start. That's giving us a little bit more time to deal with some of the permitting and, as I mentioned, those storm shelter requirements. The storm shelter requirements that came in have confused a lot of folks, and we're getting tied up in all of that. So we're going to give ourselves a little bit more time to get through permitting and make sure we know what we're doing before we break ground in the midsummer. McCorder is a single summer. We'll be ready in August of next year. Sheffield is 2 years worth of construction. Again, we know folks can do it faster than that, but that doesn't mean it's right for us. We have the time to do it, and we're going to take it because we want to do it right. Vivian Field, we had 2 summers and a full year in between. Same thing with Turner.
Board members, any questions? I like at the bottom, it says tentative, subject to change, like 4 or 5 times. Is that Ms. Tillman's addition?
Yes.
Because there were dates across the top, but then across the bottom, it was tentative.
This is the most current plan, subject to change.
Board members, any questions, or are y'all good? Thank you, Mr. Maroon. The next agenda item is number 6, items removed from consent. We had item 4J. So that was pulled from consent because you'd like to not vote on it, Mr. Ramos?
That is correct.
So we're looking for someone that would like to vote on it to make a motion. I heard you clear your throat.
I'm chewing my ice right now. I couldn't do it.
Okay, Mr. Shackman.
Mr. Klein, I would recommend that we approve consent agenda item 4J as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Shackman. We have a second by Mr. Matthews. All those in favor? So we have Mr. Matthews, Ms. Derrick, myself, Mr. Shackman, Ms. Valenzuela, and Mr. Ramos as abstaining or recusing himself. We're now moving on to item 6B, consider approval of campus targeted improvement plans and campus improvement plan addendums for identified campuses. Ms. Smith?
Thank you, appreciate it. We want to start tonight with just some thank yous because there are lots of people who worked really hard on this agenda item. First of all, to the 15 campuses, the principals and the staffs that put a team together to really work out those plans that you see in front of you. Kudos to them and their teams. Thank you so much. Special shout out to Amy Miller and Matt Pruitt for their help in getting the process that we used to get that going. So thank you all for that. Second, thank you to the leadership team, the DLT. They also were very instrumental in helping to get all of that going. So Maggie, Susan, and Lance, thank you all. And then last but not least, the team that was the data, all of that work behind making sure that we had just the right answers for everything. Dr. Patty Parker and her team, all 3 of them were so very instrumental in helping the campuses to get ready for these, and so thank you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Parker to get us started.
Thank you so much. Good evening. Tonight we are going to be sharing information about the state's accountability system as well as the new Effective Schools framework. On August the 15th, TEA released the 2019 A through F campus and district ratings. The information is easily accessible on their website, and it includes information for the 2018 as well as the 2019 school year. In 2019, CFB earned an overall score of an 89, and this represents a 2% increase from the prior year. Recall that our accountability system is based on 3 separate domains. 70% of the district's overall score is based on either student achievement, performance, or school progress measures. and the remaining 30% is based on performance in the Closing the Gap indicator. Domain 1, student achievement, includes STAR test results, college, career, and military readiness factors, as well as the graduation rates. Domain 2, school progress, includes how much improvement students make from one year to the next on the STAR test. And Domain 3, Closing the Gaps, looks at how well the different student groups are performing. In a few minutes, we're going to take a look at TA's school improvement criteria, which is based on campuses addressing areas in at least one of these 3 domains. Taking a look across the district, 25 campuses, or nearly 70% of our schools, earned a letter grade of an A or a B in 2019. In comparison to other open enrollment campuses across the state, CFB earned a higher percentage of campuses with a letter grade of an A or a B rating. This is the very first year that our campuses were assigned a letter grade under the A through F rating system. Campuses are required to engage in the school improvement actions if their overall letter grade is below a C, or if any one of the domain scores in student achievement, school progress, or closing the gaps was below a C, or if the same indicator is missed for 3 consecutive years in Domain 3, closing the gap. 15 campuses participated in the Effective Schools Framework training to assist with completing the targeted improvement plans or the campus improvement plan addendums for school improvement.
And so with that, the Effective School Framework is a framework set forth by the state of Texas. And they had 3 main purposes for doing this. The first is that they wanted a common language across the state. In the past, when a school was in need of improvement, each campus was allowed to do pretty much whatever it wanted, and that didn't always work. You can see places across the state that have multiple years of receiving an F rating and are still there. So the state put some requirements in place so that everybody is talking the same language. And I'm going to scoot to the third one for just a minute, which really helped with alignment. So now we have a better way of working with the regional service centers and other providers that can help campuses to move forward. And then finally, it all is based around continuous improvement. One of the things that we really liked about it when we went and saw the framework is that it's not just good for schools who are struggling. It is good for every single school because everybody can get better and better and better. And so we have already rolled out the framework to all of our campus principals. So as we begin looking forward to our needs assessment for the next year, this can be a part that they can consider in using. All of this work is based on the work by Paul Bambrick and Toyo, and a shout out to Dr. Chapman for his vision in getting us involved in Relay, because Relay GSE, Graduate School of Education, is all based on the work of Paul Bambrick and Toyo. So when the leadership development team went and saw all of the training, and the campuses that we're supporting went and got that training. When we went to the ESF training, Effective School Framework training, we were like, this is exactly what we've already known, and it dovetails beautifully, which means we didn't have fragmentation in our implementation, which was beautiful for us. With the Effective Schools Framework, the first piece obviously was the training. So our campus principals went along with their leadership development team member and sat through the training to figure out, okay, what are our next steps? With this, it all is around the Effective School Framework, and you have this document that is in front of you, and it goes into even more detail than what we're going through tonight. But as you look through it, you can see that there are 5 prioritized levers: strong school leadership and planning, effective, well-supported teachers, positive school culture, high-quality curriculum, and effective instruction. If you have these 5 levers in place, then your school can be more successful. In that, there are also some prioritized action steps. The state has said you can't look at some of these action steps until you have others firmly in place. So on this slide, you see 1.1 all the way through 5.3. They said those are the first 6 that you need to consider before you move on to any of the other action steps. So part 2 was going back with our campuses and having them go through a process to analyze where is their campus in regard to those 6 levers that you saw on the previous slide. So with that, they took a look at what are our strengths, what are areas of weakness, and which 2 are we going to choose to work on. If we have all 6, you know, if we focus on too many things, you focus on nothing. So they picked 2 where they were going to focus. From that, they developed a targeted improvement plan. And again, goes back to where Dr. Parker's team was so invaluable. They brought the data to us. We were able to look at that and set areas for growth around those 2 important areas. They developed a plan for each of the 4 quarters, well, for 3 of the 4 quarters. Summer, we haven't done yet. As soon as we get our STAR scores back from this year, we'll start to work on what's going to happen during the summer and on into the next year. But all of the campuses, and that's what you see in those plans that were presented to you, what is each campus going to do during each of the quarters to work on improving their student performance? You'll see that these are where our campuses chose to write their plans. We said that there are only 15 campuses, and that's true, but remember they chose 2 items each, so that's where you see the multiple campuses. 11 of our campuses chose to look at a compelling and aligned vision, mission, and goals. With that, they're saying that the work that you all have done, school board, in setting the district's goal and vision have been so very helpful. So thank you for helping them. The groups that have decided to take this particular goal to be even more laser-like and focused. So thank you for that. This also goes along with the district initiative of setting campus culture as the #1 thing to help to make everything run so smoothly. So 11 of our campuses chose that. 6 of our campuses chose objective-driven daily lesson plans with formative assessments. That has to do with effective instruction. With that, the formative assessments are what teachers are looking at to help drive instruction for the next day. Formative assessment happens on a short-term basis, then instruction can change tomorrow based on what teachers are seeing today. So that is huge in helping student achievement to increase. And then 13 campuses chose data-driven instruction. Again, that has to do with the formative assessment, but also the effective use of summative assessment, those tests at the end of the units, in order to best meet student needs. So we are sure that with those 3 items and really taking a laser look focus at those, that those 15 campuses are going to move student achievement forward. The other parts of this process we started way back on September 16th in order to get these plans to you. The other thing that has happened since then is that every one of the 15 campuses had a meeting with all of its constituents, invited every parent from the building to come, be a part of this meeting, hear what was going on, and give input. Dr. Parker was instrumental in being a part of every single one of those and putting those together, so thanks to that as well. And now we're at the November 7th date where we're here to present those plans to you, and we're hoping that you'll take a look at those and consider approving those tonight. Because we know that with a compelling plan, a compelling goal and a clear plan, that our campuses will achieve high expectations for each student. Dr. Chapman, that completes our presentation.
So, board members, does anybody have any questions? We're also looking for a motion. Mr. Matthews.
I'll make a motion that we approve the addendum to the targeted improvement and campus improvement plans as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Do we have a second? Ms. Derrick. So is there any further discussion? I think you've really discussed everything very clearly, Ms. Smith. So all those in favor? So that's Mr. Matthews, Ms. Derrick, myself, Mr. Shackman, Mr. Ramos, and Ms. Valenzuela. So that takes us to thank you, Dr. Parker and Ms. Smith. So that takes us to item number 6C, consider by official ballot resolution to vote on nominee to the Board of Directors for the Dallas Central Appraisal District. Ms. Tillman?
Thank you.
According to property tax code, in odd number years, there's an election or appointment required for members of the board of directors for both the appraisal districts that we participate with. The term of office is 2 years, beginning in even number years. Taxes during jurisdictions are given the opportunity to nominate candidates, which we went through that process last month, and then that information is compiled and returned to the taxing entities to then place their vote. The Dallas board is you're allowed to cast one vote as a board, and Dr. Chapman has sample motion language for this item. And we're asking the board to consider approving the resolution and casting the vote.
So board members, we can cast one vote for Dallas Central Appraisal District. Are there any nominations anyone would like to make? So Ms. Tillman, if we wanted to not cast a vote, is that okay too?
Yes.
So it looks like this board may not have a preference right now to cast a vote. So we'll just not cast a vote on this item and move on to 6D. So 6D is considered by official ballot resolution to vote on a nominee to the Board of Directors for the Denton Central Appraisal District. Ms. Tillman?
Yes, Denton's is slightly a little bit different than Dallas. We're given 143 votes. Those votes can be cast all for one nominee or split however the board so chooses. You also have sample language for this item, along with the list of the summarized nominees by all the taxing jurisdictions. We ask that you consider casting your votes as well for Denton County.
So do we have a nomination? Ms. Derrick?
I move that we, the CFB ISD Board of Trustees, cast our 143 votes for the Denton Central Appraisal District candidates in this manner. Rory Atwood, 36. Ashley Miller, 36. Charles Stafford, 36. Tom Washington, 35, for a total of 143.
So we have a motion by Ms. Derrick. Do we have a second? Mr. Matthews? Is there any further discussion? So all of those in favor? And that is 6-4 and 1 absent. So the board will now move on to item number 7, comments from board members regarding posted agenda items. Board members, any comments at this time? With none, hearing none, seeing none. Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the end. I know it's heartbreaking of our agenda at 8:18 p.m. and we are adjourned.